I am Anthony for Hassler's.net, and today we're going to talk about what if GameStop became a Best Buy vendor. In 2012, Best Buy attempted to compete with GameStop by creating a gamers incentive program known as the Gamers Club and creating a magazine known as @Gamer. At this point in time, Best Buy also began accepting trade-ins for video games. However, they were a lot pickier about what games they would accept as a pre-owned game. Typically, only the newest games within a certain date range would be taken in as pre-owned. Needless to say, this program did not last very long because Best Buy did not have the infrastructure to handle the influx of pre-owned merchandise going in and out. The @Gamer magazine barely lasted 2 years, and Gamers Club remained until 2018. As of March 2020, within 5 miles of my house, I'm near Cleveland in Ohio, there are 3 GameStops. Zoom out to 10 miles, and there are 4 GameStops. Prior to 2018, there were 6 GameStops within 10 miles of my house. Prior to March 2020, there were 3 Best Buys within 10 miles of my house. Best Buys are much larger stores and sell a variety of different electronics, so there are typically fewer compared to GameStops in the same radius. GameStops is a mix of 2 different businesses, which makes me wonder why GameStop is still a thing when its Think Geek side actually makes more money. The funny thing is, GameStop has closed most independent Think Geek stores, even though its merchandise is the biggest selling part of any GameStop store. Obviously, GameStop sees Think Geek as a crutch. To give an example of a business that realized only part of them was worth anything, think about Woolworths. Woolworths saw that their Foot Locker athletic shoe department was a diamond in the rough, and when their department stores were failing, they thought, hey, why don't we just move into the Foot Locker business full time? They turned the successful part of their business into a greater success. On the other hand, GameStop is so wrapped up in the video game side that they are ignoring the fact that their profit is in their merchandise side. However, I can see where we can still save GameStop, but it would be part of a freestanding store and part a vendor inside another store. Honestly, I think that this approach could have really helped Radio Shack if they'd bothered to explore it. So what would GameStop be able to do instead of a Best Buy store? If you've ever been to a Best Buy, you probably have seen an Apple, Microsoft, or Samsung vendors area in the store. What I'm proposing here is that GameStop takes over the video game section for Best Buy. As somebody who has worked at a Best Buy as a vendor, or technically a merchandiser for another company, they kind of put everything into the area and then just leave the area alone. So definitely it could use some TLC. So step 1 would be establish a partnership with Best Buy. Step 2, close GameStop freestanding stores where there is a Best Buy nearby in a certain radius. Step 3, acquire a section of Best Buy where the video games can be sold with GameStop branded representatives that allow for the trade-in of pre-owned merchandise and still offers a nifty GameStop incentive program through Best Buy that is also part of GameStop. So it would work in Best Buy, it would also work at GameStops. Imagine walking into a Best Buy at some point in the future. Depending on how the stores are set up, let's say it's on the right. Typically, where the computers and the video games are in some stores, it's on the right when you walk in from the entrance. Typically, at least in the stores around here, you walk in front of you is mobile, to the right is Microsoft, and then video games are behind that. So you can see a nice GameStop display with like 2 aisles of game shelves and a couple cases holding the consoles. Upon the game shelves are both new and pre-owned copies of those newest games for each console and a nice plastic case with security protection. The ones with the magnetic locks, the beep beep beeps. Now, the other thing is, and I should mention this, shrinkage is pretty big in the video games because frankly it isn't rocket science to defeat those locks. So putting somebody whose job is to specifically watch that area and help customer sales is something that's desperately needed. Again, when I worked as a merchandiser for another company, no one covered video games. They were part of electronics and they had one person, and that person was typically busy with the digital cameras and security systems. The GameStop representatives would be responsible for maintaining the area, helping customers, and ringing out sales. This is the exact same thing that the Apple, Microsoft, and Samsung representatives are doing at most of the Best Buy stores. Best Buy would then credit the vendors for the sales of their products, no managers, only a supervisor, and a lot more flexibility. And I say this in a way of, cross-training. So if for some reason on this particular day there's no GameStop associate, there may be a Best Buy associate who can, jump in. So again, only a GameStop supervisor wouldn't need a full-on manager. So that would kind of run around the GameStop not wanting to pay for actual managers. So another way to save a little bit of money. Now, to be honest, you maybe didn't know that Target and Walmart actually have vendors inside of their stores. If you've ever entered one of the larger, what used to be called super Walmarts, they typically have multiple smaller storefronts by the cash registers. Like literally when you enter, turn left or right, you're going to see a bunch of little stores, typically a nail salon, sometimes a Subway or McDonald's, eyeglass center, which is typically a Walmart, but they kind of rent it out to independent specialists. In some electronic sections of both Walmart and Target, you can sometimes find cellular associates. At Walmart in particular, you can find Spectrum, Straight Talk, and TracFone. Target actually contracts with an independent vendor to handle the cellular sales for a number of companies. In the case of Walmart, GameStop could perhaps acquire one of those rental spaces at the front of the store. It is not uncommon for a GameStop to exist in the same shopping pleasures as Walmart, so why not merge the two? The point is, GameStop is focusing on the wrong thing. The question is, do they want to survive a change in the way we shop for video games, or are they pretty much putting all their chips out on the table and hoping to bluff the customers into keeping them into business? I'm going to be honest, merchandise isn't going to keep them alive forever. It's barely keeping them alive now. They're not going to be able to sustain themselves when we end up with the PlayStation 6, the Xbox 5, and the Switch 2, because once those release, there's no longer any physical media. Everything's going digital after the next generation. And it is already a rarity to acquire digital content for most games at GameStop anyway. So it's not like you can go into GameStop and get a game that released 2 years ago some digital content. It just isn't going to happen. Unless it's a brand new DLC pack they just released, you're probably not going to be able to buy it. And typically, they only have digital content available for the newest game consoles and pretty much nothing for a computer. So if you're looking for a game that's on the Xbox and on a computer, you're not going to get it on the computer. In case you did not know, there are more computer gamers in the world than there are console gamers, which should be an obvious duh, but you know. GameStop needs to become more of an experience, which is why vendors at Best Buy are succeeding and the customers are not taking their money to Amazon. To broaden that a little bit, think of it this way. When GameStop first started, actually FuncoLand, they were competing against EB Games. Now, EB Games had this spectacular sales floor thing where you would walk in. Now, you would still see the walls of product, but they would always have open free play. As long as it's a pre-owned game, you can try them out. And as long as the store's not busy, you can pretty much just play the entire game there. Probably not a good idea. Wasn't a great idea back then. But I bought a number of games purely on the 5 minutes they gave me to play them. Because I probably wasn't on the... I was like on the fence and wasn't sure. But they gave me 5 minutes and I was like, yes, I definitely need to continue this game. It's a great way to hook people in. If you ever go into a store and the sales associates helps you, if they can, they will put the product in your hand, because science has shown that if you physically touch a product, you're more likely to buy. EB Games had this in spades, and yeah, it get passed down to GameStop when the merger happened, but you don't have that same experience. And while Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony provide the demo systems, they're not really the same thing. You kind of locked into what they're offering there, and maybe every 3 months they'll update it, but it's usually just first-party games or second-party games, and rarely it's that AAA third-party game that you may really, really be interested in, but you're on the fence. So by allowing you to try the pre-owned games, in addition to helping you buy a pre-owned game, which would save you a little bit of money but make them the most profit, it's just there's opportunities that they could be benefiting from. Now, if you've seen them, and I think it's a horrible idea. The GameStop's trying to do the LAN party route. I know a number of businesses that have opened up around here that have tried the LAN party route. You come in, you can buy pre-owned games, you can buy new games. And these are, of course, locally owned small businesses. They fail within about a year to 2 years. It's because initially people will just pile on in there and they'll make their year budget within the first 3 to 6 months. But then afterwards, because the novelty's gone, nobody is going to come back. There's no repeat customers. Everybody can play online now. So a LAN party store is a horrible idea for GameStop. Now, what I think they should do is create a larger partnership with the Pokemon Company. And I'm sure going to follow up with other companies, but they should say, hey, we're going to put out tables and chairs, and you're going to hold your Pokemon video game events here. You bring an organizer, have that done, we'll pay them. And prize support would be obviously game cards, the charge cards, the gift cards, whatever, because the Pokemon video gamers don't necessarily play the card game, and maybe they'll want to buy another video game, so they can use those gift cards to do whatever. They're just ways to get people into the door, but it's something they can explore with not just Pokemon, obviously. Again, there's other games. They can even have their stores run online events, and you still have to come into the store to register. And of course, you got sign something, give some information, basically just to make sure you're going to be there. You're a physical person. Proof that you're and then if there's an entry fee, you pay your entry fee at the store. That would be a nice approach to get people into the door, because that's really your goal, is get people in the door. They don't necessarily need to buy anything, but there's a chance that you're going to sell something. So the goal is to make GameStop an epicenter for events and game releases. Now, sure, GameStops occasionally have a long line for the newest Pokemon game or Halo or whatever, but so does Walmart, and people can go to Walmart at midnight and not have to wait for the next day for some releases to pick up the newest game. So they kind of get beat on that. And then there's the people who buy from Amazon and say, screw the physical stores anyway. GameStop really needs to separate themselves. Selling pop figures is all well and good, and yeah, the collectibles are selling, and many of which are exclusive, are making money, but a lot of those are being sold by Walmart. They're being sold online at Amazon. Again, it's all about differentiation. The problem now is planning for the day when there's only digital content available for the computer and game consoles. Unless GameStop creates some great partnerships like the one I proposed for Best Buy, or maybe Walmart, or maybe Target, they're just not going to survive after this generation. I'll be surprised if they survive the release this or holiday season of 2020. I'm just not seeing it. I think they're barely hanging on. They've closed half their stores. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.
Thank you for watching this video. We would also like to thank our contributors and patrons for supporting this video. If you wish to add to the discussion, post a comment below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos.
Thank you for checking out our content. Before you leave, please remember to click like and then subscribe. If you want to receive notifications, do not forget to enable them by clicking on the bell. Then afterwards, check out our social media at HaslageNet and our website at haslage.net.